There are measurements inside ancient temples that should not be possible. In Cambodia, a 12th century stone complex encodes the exact length of the solar year in its own dimensions: 365.37 cubits. The deviation from the actual solar year is less than half a day across 12 months. In Egypt, sunlight enters a 63-meter tunnel twice per year and illuminates a specific statue while leaving the one beside it in shadow. The angle was calculated 3,200 years ago. It still works. In Peru, a single window in a stone tower is aligned so that on one morning per year, and only that morning, a shaft of light crosses the room and lands on a carved altar, half a degree off in any direction, and the altar stays dark forever. In Mexico, a shadow shaped exactly like a descending serpent appears on a staircase twice per year. It lasts 34 minutes. Then it vanishes for 6 months. These are 8 ancient temples engineered to a precision that still defeats explanation. Luxor, Egypt, 1995. A surveyor arrives at the Temple of Karnak with GPS equipment accurate to within centimeters. He is not there to discover anything. He is there to document what is already known. He points his instrument down the central axis of the great hypostyle hall, 103 meters long, 52 meters wide, containing 134 stone columns, and takes a reading. The axis aligns with winter solstice sunrise, precisely within half a degree. He writes this down. Then he checks the date the temple was begun, 2055 BCE. The first thing you need to understand about Karnak is its scale. Those 12 central columns are 22.4 meters tall and 3.5 meters wide at the base. That is the height of a 7-story building, each one. There are 12 of them standing in a row. And they have been standing in that row for over 3,000 years. And every single one of them sits on an axis that points within half a degree at the exact position of the sun on the morning of the winter solstice. The second thing you need to understand is who built it. Approximately 30 different pharaohs, over a period of 2,000 years. Archaeoastronomers Juan Belmonte and Mosalam Chaltout confirmed in their 2005 peer-reviewed study that the alignment is intentional and precise. What they could not confirm is how it was maintained. Because there is no shared engineering record, no blueprint passed between dynasties, no document connecting the builder of the 12th century BCE to the builder of the 10th century BCE. 30 rulers, 0 shared documentation, or half a degree of deviation across 2,000 years of separate construction. Researcher Lucy Lamisi documented in her study Egyptian Mysteries that the White Chapel of Senusret I, built at Karnak around 1970 BCE, functioned as a physical measuring rod encoding precise geodetic knowledge of the Earth's dimensions. The builders were not guessing its scale. They were encoding it. What was the shared reference that survived every dynasty, every invasion, every gap of 300 years between construction campaigns? We do not know. Nobody does. 1998. 2 researchers lay a star chart over a satellite image of Cambodia. The star chart is set to the spring equinox of 10,500 BCE. The satellite image shows the Angkor Temple complex as it exists today. 7 principal temples distributed across more than 12 kilometers of jungle, built in the 12th century CE by Khmer King Suryavarman II. The temples match the stars, not approximately, not suggestively. The positions of 7 temples correspond to 7 stars in the constellation Draco, with a corner angle deviation of 90 degrees, plus or minus 6 degrees. A figure confirmed by researcher Mark Carlotto in a 2021 quantitative study published in peer-reviewed literature. For comparison, the frequently cited Orion-Giza correlation carries a deviation of 90 degrees, plus or minus 18 degrees. Angkor is 3 times tighter. Now consider what this requires. Angkor Wat covers approximately 400 hectares. Its east-west axis deviates precisely 0.75 degrees south of true east, deliberately, according to researchers, to give observers a 3-day anticipation of the spring equinox. The top terrace elevation dimensions sum to 365.37 Cambodian cubits. The near exact length of the solar year, documented by researcher Subhash Kak. The temple complex at nearby Reluos mirrors the 3 stars of Corona Borealis as they appeared at the spring equinox in 10,500 BCE. 3 separate astronomical correlations, all pointing to the same date. A date 8,000 years before the 12th century CE. Here is what that means physically. Draco is not a small constellation. Mapping it across 12 kilometers of Cambodian jungle means positioning individual temple foundations at specific points in dense terrain, to within a margin of error that modern quantitative analysis rates as statistically significant. The builders of Angkor did this in the 12th century CE, for a sky that existed in 10,500 BCE. They were not observing those stars. They could not have been. Those stars were not visible from Angkor during their lifetime. They were preserving something older than their own civilization, something that required them to know what the sky looked like 8,000 years before they were born. How do you inherit knowledge from a time before your history begins? In 1819, a British colonial surveyor arrived at Ellora in Maharashtra expecting to document a cave. He found a cathedral, not built into the rock face, not carved horizontally into a hillside. A freestanding cathedral, with a tower, a courtyard, a colonnade, sculpted elephants at the base, and relief panels covering every surface. Sitting inside a rectangular pit, cut vertically into the top of a basalt mountain. The mountain was still there, rising on 3 sides around it. The cathedral had been extracted from within it. This is the Kailasa Temple, attributed to Rashtrakuta King Krishna I, approximately 756 to 773 CE. It is 84 meters long, 47 meters wide, and 32.6 meters tall. It is the largest monolithic structure in the world, meaning it was not assembled. It was subtracted. Every column, every wall, every sculpted figure was revealed by removing what surrounded it, from the top downward, out of a single continuous body of basalt rock. The mainstream explanation is straightforward. Skilled guilds of craftsmen using iron chisels and hammers, coordinated over 18 years under royal patronage. Scholar M.K. Davalikar calculated that 250 laborers working at the documented cutting pace could have completed the excavation in 5.5 years. Meaning multiple teams worked simultaneously across different levels. The engineering logic is sound. What is not sound is this. Approximately 200,000 tons of basalt rock were removed from that mountain. The Archaeological Survey of India has formally documented that this rock has never been located. No rubble field, no transported stone, no disposal site within or beyond the Ellora site. 3 million cubic feet of volcanic basalt extracted from a mountain and simply absent from the archaeological record. 200,000 tons. That is the combined mass of approximately 30,000 adult elephants. Load that volume into standard freight lorries and park them end to end. The convoy stretches more than 4,000 kilometers. London to Baghdad. The rock is not there. It has never been found. And then there is the precision. The temple's 4 sides align to all 4 cardinal directions. The Archaeological Survey of India has measured this alignment and not fully published the tolerance. The question they have not answered is the same one the surveyor could not answer in 1819. Why does a temple carved by hand from the inside of a mountain need to point exactly north, south, east, and west? Removing the rock is not the mystery. The mystery is why it was done this precisely, and where the evidence of doing it went. Before we continue, 3 temples in, 3 continents visited, and not one mainstream explanation has accounted for what we just measured. If this kind of documented precision matters to you, the subscribe button below this video means more of it. June 21st, 4:30 in the morning, approximately 1500 CE. A priest climbs to the Temple of the Sun before dawn. The air at Machu Picchu is cold at this hour, and the mountain drops away on 3 sides into cloud. He has made this climb every year of his adult life. His father made it. His grandfather made it. The temple they are climbing toward has been waiting in the dark for this specific morning. He does not need to hurry. The temple knows when to begin. The Temple of the Sun is a curved trapezoidal stone tower built directly onto a natural granite outcrop at the highest point of the Machu Picchu complex. No mortar was used in its construction. Individual stones were shaped to interlock with a precision that archaeoastronomer Anthony Aveni of Colgate University described in his 2001 study as the most sophisticated dry stone fitting in the Americas. The stones do not sit on each other. They hold each other. There is a difference. On the northeast face of the tower is a single window. Trapezoidal, narrow, it does not look significant. At sunrise on June 21st, the winter solstice in the southern hemisphere, the shortest day of the year, light enters through that window and travels across the interior of the temple. It arrives at a carved altar stone set into the granite outcrop below. It illuminates a specific pattern carved into that stone. It holds for approximately 7 minutes. Then the angle of the sun shifts. The light moves off the stone, and the pattern returns to shadow. This happens once per year, only on that morning. 7 minutes, then nothing for 358 days. Anthony Aveni measured the window angle. The precision is within 2 angular minutes, approximately 1/30th of 1 degree. At that level of accuracy, an error of even a fraction in the window placement would shift the illumination point by more than 1 meter on the altar below. The altar would stay dark. The ceremony would fail. The priest would have climbed for nothing. Here is what 2 angular minutes means in physical terms. Hold your thumb at arm's length. The width of your thumbnail covers approximately 2 degrees of sky. 2 angular minutes is 1/30th of that width. The builders of this temple cut a window into a stone wall, without mortar, without instruments, without a laser level, without any mechanism for testing the result except the solstice itself, arriving once per year, and targeted a circle of light the size of 1/30th of your thumbnail. And they were correct. But the detail that Aveni documented and that nobody has fully explained is this. The altar stone was carved before the window was cut. The pattern on the altar stone that the light illuminates was finished first. The window was then positioned afterward to deliver light to that pre-existing point. That is not trial and error. Trial and error requires the ability to try again. You get 1 solstice per year, 1 test, 1 result. They knew where the light would land before they cut the opening that would send it there. That is not a building technique. That is a different relationship with geometry than the one we currently use. 1971. Archaeologists excavating beneath the Pyramid of the Sun at Teotihuacan discover a tunnel 700 meters long running directly under the structure. Nobody had mapped it. It points due west, directly at the setting sun on the equinox. Nobody knows who built Teotihuacan. Not the name of its founders, not the language they spoke, not the religion they practiced. The Aztecs arrived centuries after the city was abandoned and named it themselves. Teotihuacan, meaning the place where the gods were conceived. Even they did not know who had been there before them. What they left behind is the Pyramid of the Sun. Base dimensions approximately 220 meters by 230 meters. Height approximately 66 meters. The pyramid's base perimeter is approximately 895 meters. Now consider the circumference of the Earth. Approximately and 75,000 meters at the equator. The ratio of the pyramid's base perimeter to the Earth's full circumference is approximately 1 to 43,200. The margin of error in that ratio is less than 0.05%. Researchers at the National Autonomous University of Mexico documented in a 2004 survey that the pyramid's height-to-base ratio approximates 4 times pi, the mathematical constant, with an error of less than 0.05%. The same ratio of base perimeter to Earth circumference, 1 to 43,200, is present in the Great Pyramid at Giza. 2 pyramids, but 2 separate civilizations, 2 separate continents, 1 number, a number that describes the planet both of them were standing on. The entire city of Teotihuacan is oriented 15.5 degrees east of true north, aligned directly with the nearby volcano Cerro Gordo, aligned also so that the sun sets directly behind the Pyramid of the Sun on 2 specific dates, the 19th of May and the 25th of July. You cannot measure the circumference of a planet with a rope and a stick. So what were they measuring? And how did the same number arrive independently on another continent, encoded into a different pyramid, built by people who had no documented contact with each other? We do not have an answer. What we have is the number, on both sides of an ocean, precise to less than 0.05%. October 21st, 6:19 in the morning, approximately 1,200 BCE. Outside the mountain, the Nile is still dark. Inside, the temple has been dark for 6 months. 63 meters of carved sandstone corridor, 4 statues seated at the far end, and absolute silence. The priests who maintain this temple know what is about to happen. They have been told by the priests before them. It has not failed once in living memory. It has not failed once in any memory. At 6:20, a single shaft of light enters the doorway. It travels the full 63 meters of the corridor without touching the walls. It arrives at the innermost sanctuary. It illuminates the face of Ra-Harakti first, then Amun-Ra, then the deified Rameses II himself. The 4th figure, Ptah, god of the underworld, remains in shadow. The light holds for 20 minutes. Then the angle of the sun shifts, the beam withdraws, and the sanctuary returns to dark for another 6 months. The great temple of Abu Simbel was built during the reign of Rameses II, approximately 1,264 to 1,244 BCE. This event, sunlight penetrating 63 meters into a mountain and illuminating 3 specific statues while deliberately avoiding a 4th, happens twice per year, on the 21st of February and the 21st of October, believed to mark the coronation and birthday of Rameses II. It has been happening, without interruption, for over 3,200 years. In 1964, UNESCO began relocating the entire temple. The Aswan High Dam was rising, and Lake Nasser would submerge Abu Simbel permanently. Engineers from more than 50 countries spent 4 years cutting the temple into 1,036 blocks, moving them 65 meters higher and 200 meters further inland, and reassembling them on an artificial hill. Their permitted margin of error in replicating the solar alignment was plus or minus 5 millimeters. It took months of computation to achieve it. 5 millimeters. That is the thickness of a standard pencil. The engineers of 1968, with theodolites and computers and the full resources of an international UNESCO operation, needed months to hold that tolerance across a 63-meter structure. The architects of 1,260 BCE held it across 3,000 years, in sandstone, or with rope and shadow. The alignment now occurs 1 day later than originally designed, the 22nd of February and the 22nd of October. Because the altitude change introduced a variation even months of modern computation could not fully eliminate. The original builders got closer than the people who moved it. And consider the 4th statue. Ptah remains in permanent shadow, not by accident, by calculation. The architects did not simply aim the light at three figures. They calculated simultaneously the precise position of permanent darkness. They knew exactly where the light would not go. How do you calculate an absence? How do you design for shadow with the same precision you design for light, without the instruments needed to measure either? Twice per year, in the late afternoon, a shadow shaped like a feathered serpent appears on the north staircase of the Temple of Kukulkan at Chichen Itza. It begins at the top. 7 triangles of light and shadow form along the balustrade as the afternoon sun strikes the northwest corner of the pyramid at a specific angle. Over approximately 5 hours, those triangles shift and connect, descending toward the stone serpent heads carved at the base of the staircase. By the time the sun sets, the serpent has reached the ground. Then the light goes, and it vanishes for 6 months. This happens at the spring equinox and the autumn equinox. It was first documented scientifically by astronomer Anthony Aveni in 1984. Here is what the honest record also shows. Research cited by multiple academic sources confirms that the shadow effect can be observed for several weeks around the equinox, not only on the single equinox date itself. The angle of light that produces the serpent is not so narrow that it appears only once. This is worth stating plainly, because the serpent's shadow is not where the precision of this pyramid actually lives. The precision lives in the steps. The Temple of Kukulkan stands approximately 30 meters high. Each of its 4 faces carries a staircase of 91 steps. 4 staircases of 91 steps, plus the single platform at the summit, equals 365, the number of days in the solar year. Encoded in stone on all 4 sides, in a structure that also orients its northwest corner to summer solstice sunrise and its southeast face to winter solstice sunrise. Both confirmed alignments, documented separately from the serpent effect. The pyramid is simultaneously a solar clock, a ritual calendar, and something else entirely. In 2004, acoustic researchers at the University of Michigan recorded the echo produced by a hand clap at the base of the north staircase. The echo does not sound like a clap returning. It sounds like the chirp of the Quetzal bird, the sacred bird of the Maya, associated directly with Kukulkan, the feathered serpent deity the temple honors. The architects encoded the solar year into the steps. They encoded solstice alignments into the corners. They encoded the call of a sacred bird into the geometry of the staircase acoustics. This is not one precision. It is 3 operating simultaneously in the same structure. In 1942, a Dutch photographer climbed into a small aircraft above central Java and pointed his camera down. What he saw had never been seen before. Not because Borobudur was unknown, it had been a pilgrimage site for over 1,000 years. But from the ground, what you see is stone, corridors, terraces, steps, stupas. From the air, for the first time in recorded history, a human being saw what the builders had actually made. A perfect mandala, a geometric diagram of Buddhist cosmology, precise and symmetrical, laid out across a base of 118 meters on each side, rising through 9 levels to a single central stupa at the summit. Nobody on the ground had ever seen it. Nobody on the ground ever could. Borobudur was built by the Sailendra dynasty of Central Java, approximately 760 to 825 CE. It is the largest Buddhist monument in the world, a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 1991. Its construction required 2 million blocks of volcanic andesite stone, assembled without mortar using interlocking joints. It contains 2,672 individual relief panels. Laid end to end, they would stretch more than 6 kilometers. 504 Buddha statues occupy its terraces and latticed stupas. The mainstream explanation is architecturally coherent. The Sailendra dynasty employed master architects working from Buddhist cosmological texts, encoding the three realms of existence: desire, form, and formlessness, into the ascending levels of the structure. And the design intent is documented, and the religious symbolism is clear. What is not clear is the geometry. In 1977, researcher Parmono Atmadi surveyed the monument and found that its dimensions conform throughout to a ratio of 4:6:9. Not approximately. Throughout, from the proportions of individual relief panels to the full base dimensions of the structure. The same ratio, repeating at every scale. In 2015, mathematician Haki Situngkir published a paper in the Archive Mathematics repository confirming that Borobudur's architectural design exhibits mathematically verifiable self-similarity consistent with fractal geometry. The term for this is a fractal, a pattern that repeats identically at every level of magnification. Benoit Mandelbrot formalized fractal geometry in 1977, and the same year Atmadi found the ratio in Borobudur. The builders of 825 CE preceded that formalization by approximately 1150 years. The measuring unit they used was the tala, defined as the length of a human face from hairline to chin. Not a standardized rod, not a calibrated instrument, the length of a face. And from that non-standardized unit, applied consistently across 2 million blocks assembled by human hands without mortar, they produced a fractal ratio precise enough that modern mathematical analysis confirms it holds at every spatial scale of the structure. The pattern is only visible from the air. The builders had no aircraft. No elevated vantage point exists near Borobudur from which the full mandala is visible. They designed something they could never see, and it is exact. Here is what these 8 temples are not. They are not evidence of alien contact. They are not proof of a lost super-civilization. They are not an argument for anything supernatural. Every structure we have examined today is human. Every measurement is documented. Every researcher cited is named, published, and verifiable. What they are evidence of is more uncomfortable than any of those alternatives. They are evidence that precision is a form of knowledge that does not require instruments. The Inca stonecutter who carved the solar window at Machu Picchu did not own a theodolite. He had something older, a system of knowing that was embodied, inherited, and practiced across generations until it became exact. The Egyptian architect who oriented Abu Simbel through 63 meters of sandstone did not have laser levels. He had geometry, a patience, and a tradition of measurement we have not fully reconstructed. The 8th century builders of Borobudur did not have aerial photography. They designed a mandala visible only from the sky and built it correctly from the ground. What these 8 temples share is not origin. What they share is this: each one required its builders to know the answer before they possessed any instrument capable of measuring it. The window was cut after the altar was carved. The tunnel was drilled before the sun arrived to test it. The mandala was designed before anyone could see it whole. That is not alien precision. That is a different relationship with knowledge than the one we currently practice. One that lived in the hands and the memory and the inherited understanding of people we have spent centuries calling primitive, and we were wrong about that. The measurements say so. If anything we covered today made you stop and reconsider something you thought you knew, that is exactly what this channel is for. Like this video if the evidence earned it. Subscribe if you want to be here next week.